All right, so today we're going like deep diving into this Belwin Conservancy.
Okay.
And you sent over a whole bunch of stuff about it.
Yeah.
Articles, websites, even a YouTube video.
Oh, wow.
And it looks like this Stagecoach Prairie is like the star.
Yeah, it seems to be featured very prominently.
Yeah, so what's the deal with this place?
Well, it's more than just a pretty prairie, right? We're talking about 1,600 acres in Minnesota's St. Croix Valley.
Wow.
Really a mix of different ecosystems, and from what I'm seeing here in these sources, Belwin's doing some really interesting things to protect it all.
Okay, so it's not just about like hiking trails and wildflowers then.
Right.
Those wildflowers on that Explore Minnesota site are like really stunning.
Oh yeah, absolutely. They're beautiful, but it's much deeper than that.
Right.
Prairies are vital, for biodiversity.
Yeah.
That tapestry of native grasses and wildflowers that you see in that 1 Million Women Walking blog post, that supports a whole web of life.
Oh, wow.
From insects to birds. And healthy soil, clean water, prairies are essential for all that.
I see.
Yeah.
So I'm seeing a lot about Stagecoach Prairie, specifically.
Yeah.
Is that like the heart of Belwin Conservancy?
It seems to be a focal point, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not just left to grow wild.
Mm-hmm.
This blog post mentions these prescribed burns.
Yeah, that's kind of like counterintuitive, isn't it? Like setting fire to the place you want to protect.
It is, but it's actually a vital management tool.
Okay.
Mimicking natural processes, controlled burns, they clear out, dead stuff, let sunlight in, and then that helps the native plants to thrive.
Okay.
It's all about maintaining that balance, that biodiversity we talked about.
So it's not just letting nature run its course. There's like active intervention happening.
Right.
Makes you think about like the long-term effects of that, though.
Well, that's where the science comes in.
Right.
Belwin isn't just doing this blindly, They're studying the impact of these burns, and they're making sure that it's actually beneficial for the prairie.
Okay.
And, that's a key takeaway here. I think good conservation involves careful observation and adaptation.
I like that.
Yeah.
Okay, that's making more sense.
Mm-hmm.
But honestly, what really grabbed me was that YouTube video of the bison release.
Oh, yeah.
Like these massive, shaggy creatures just roaming the prairie. Yeah. Talk about a visual.
Not just a visual treat, though. They're ecological engineers.
Oh.
Bison grazing actually creates a mosaic of habitats.
Oh, wow.
And that boosts plant diversity.
Okay.
That's why they're called a keystone species. Their impact is huge, even if their numbers are relatively small.
Yeah.
Think of it like a keystone holding up an arch.
Right.
Remove it, and the whole structure is compromised.
Got it. So they're not just there for the photo ops.
Exactly.
But someone in the comments mentioned each herd having these unique personalities.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like, is that true? Or is that just us, like, putting human characteristics on them?
Well, bison are social animals, so there are definitely dynamics within the herd.
Yeah.
Whether you call that personality is up for debate, but their behavior certainly influences the landscape.
Okay.
Now, I'm not seeing any research here specifically about bison behavior at Belwin.
Right.
But it's fascinating to think about, right?
Totally. So we've got fire, we've got bison.
Yeah.
Where do we fit into all of this? Like these all trails maps are showing tons of trails.
Oh, yeah.
From easy to challenge. Looks pretty inviting.
Well, that's the other side of Belwin, that human connection to nature.
Yeah.
That 1 Million Women Walking post wasn't kidding about the restorative power of being outdoors. It's not just about exercise.
Right.
It can really impact well-being.
And it's not just warm weather stuff either.
Right.
This event listing mentions cross-country skiing in the winter.
Oh, wow.
Assuming their sun raising goes well, of course. Makes you realize that places like this, they rely on community support.
Absolutely. Conservation isn't just about scientists and experts. It takes everyone.
Right.
Speaking of which, let's zoom out a bit.
Okay.
This Explore Minnesota page is mentioning that Belwin's doing more than just Stagecoach Prairie.
Oh, right. There's a whole section about their partnership with St. Paul Public Schools bringing kids out for outdoor education.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
That is cool.
Yeah.
And the Lucy Winton Bell athletic fields, seems they've got sports happening there too.
Yeah.
This Give MN profile talks about their commitment to sustainable land management even in those areas.
Okay.
So it's not just preserving wilderness, it's integrating nature into various aspects of life.
Yeah.
That's pretty forward thinking.
All right, so we've got the scenic beauty, the ecological importance, the human element. I have to admit, this is a lot to take in.
Yeah.
Like, where do we even begin to unpack all of this?
That's a valid feeling, you know? It's clear that Belwin is a place with a lot of layers. Maybe the best way to approach this is to think about the connections we've made so far, rather than getting lost in the details.
Okay, I like that so far we've got this like incredibly biodiverse prairie that's being carefully managed, not just left to its own devices.
Right.
And there's this whole other side, the human element, whether it's hiking, education, even sports, all tied to this land in some way.
Exactly. And what's fascinating is that Belwin seems to be weaving these threads together, you know?
Yeah.
Showing that conservation can be multifaceted and engaging people on different levels.
Yeah.
It's not just about protecting nature over there. It's about bringing those values into how we live and interact with the world around us.
That's a cool way to put it.
Yeah.
But I'm wondering, how did this all come to be? Like, what's the history of Stagecoach Prairie of Belwin itself? We haven't really touched on that yet.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
And it's crucial to understanding why Belwin even exists in the first place. You know, the landscape that we see today is the result of centuries of human interaction, for better or for worse. And to really appreciate the significance of what they're doing, we need to kind of go back in time.
All right, I'm ready for a history lesson.
Okay, great.
But before we do that,
Yeah.
let's take a quick break.
Okay, sounds good.
We'll be back in a moment to continue our deep dive into Belwin Conservancy.
Sounds great. Looking forward to it. Welcome back to our deep dive into Belwin Conservancy.
Yeah.
Before the break, we were about to embark on this historical journey, tracing the roots of Stagecoach Prairie and Belwin itself.
I'm ready to rewind the clock.
Yeah.
What was this area like before it became a conservancy?
Well, the story of Belwin, and really of this whole landscape, it's deeply intertwined with the history of the Dakota people,
Okay.
also known as the Sioux. They were the original inhabitants of this land long before European settlers arrived.
The Dakota, I've heard the name, but I don't know much about their history in this area.
Yeah, so for the Dakota, the land wasn't just a resource.
Right.
It was central to their culture and spirituality. They lived in harmony with nature, you know, relying on the prairies and woodlands for food, shelter, everything.
So their way of life was directly shaped by the environment.
Exactly.
It makes you realize how much impact humans have had on a landscape over time.
For sure. And in the case of the Dakota, their practices actually helped to shape the prairie ecosystems we see today.
Wow.
Things like controlled burns.
Right.
They were already doing that centuries ago, helping to maintain the health of the prairie. It's a legacy that Belwin is continuing in a way.
That's fascinating, like a thread connecting past and present.
Yeah, for sure.
So when did things start to change?
Well, the arrival of European settlers in the 19th century brought a major shift.
Okay.
They started clearing forests for timber and agriculture, converting prairies into farmland.
Right.
And that mosaic of ecosystems that we talked about, it began to disappear, replaced with more uniform landscapes.
I guess that's when the real trouble started for native plants and animals.
Exactly. Habitat loss, fragmentation, it became a huge problem. And that's where the story of Belwin Conservancy takes an interesting turn. Have you heard of Lucy Winton Bell?
That name doesn't ring a bell.
Well, she's a key figure in the story, though. Her name isn't mentioned much in the sources you provided.
Okay.
Back in the mid-20th century, she recognized the ecological importance of this area, and she began buying up land with the goal of protecting it.
So she was like a conservation pioneer way ahead of her time.
Absolutely. She understood that protecting land wasn't just about pretty scenery.
Yeah.
It was about preserving that intricate web of life that depends on it.
Yeah.
And thankfully, her vision led to the creation of the Belwin Foundation in 1956,
Wow.
which later became the Belwin Conservancy we know today.
It's incredible to think that one person's passion can spark such a lasting impact.
It really shows the power of long-term vision, you know?
Yeah.
She understood that conservation is a marathon, not a sprint. It requires sustained effort across generations.
Right.
Her initial land purchases were just the beginning, and her legacy continues to inspire Belwin's work today.
It makes you wonder, what would Lucy Winton Bell think if she could see Belwin Conservancy now?
I imagine she'd be thrilled to see how her vision has grown and flourished, you know?
Yeah.
Belwin has expanded far beyond those initial parcels of land.
Right.
Encompassing 1,600 acres of protected habitat education programs and recreational opportunities.
Okay. I'm getting a much better sense of the context now.
Good.
But I have to admit, with all this talk about history and ecology,
Yeah.
I'm eager to bring it back to the present.
Okay.
What's it actually like to visit Stagecoach Prairie?
Ah, yes. Let's take a virtual trip, shall we?
Okay.
Imagine you're standing at the edge of this vast grassland. The wind is whispering through the tall grasses, carrying the scent of wildflowers.
Okay.
And the sound of birdsong. can you picture it?
Okay, I'm there, sun on my face, a gentle breeze. What am I seeing?
As you gaze across the prairie,
Yeah.
you'll notice these subtle dips and rises in the land, shaped by centuries of wind and water. And in the distance, a line of trees marks the border between prairie and woodland, creating a beautiful contrast against that open expanse.
It sounds so peaceful. What kind of plants and animals might I encounter on a walk through Stagecoach Prairie?
Well, the wildflowers are definitely a highlight.
Yeah.
Depending on the season, you might be greeted by a vibrant tapestry of color,
Okay.
Purple coneflowers, yellow black-eyed Susans, delicate pink prairie smoke.
The names themselves paint a picture. I can practically see them swaying in the breeze.
And keep an eye out for butterflies flitting among the blooms.
Oh, yeah.
Monarch swallowtails, painted ladies.
Wow.
A whole kaleidoscope of fluttering wings.
Now, that's an Instagram-worthy moment.
For sure.
But aside from, like, the beautiful scenery, what else makes Stagecoach Prairie unique?
Well, it's teeming with life, even if it's not always immediately visible. You might hear the chirp of grasshoppers, the buzz of busy bees, or catch a glimpse of a white-tailed deer disappearing into the tall grasses.
Right.
And then, of course, there are the bison.
All right, those majestic creatures, I imagine. They're a sight to hold.
Absolutely. Witnessing a herd of bison grazing on the prairie is a truly awe-inspiring experience.
Wow.
It's like taking a step back in time, seeing those animals in their natural habitat.
Okay, this all sounds amazing, but I have to ask the practical question.
Sure.
Is Stagecoach Prairie accessible for someone who's not exactly an experienced hiker?
That's a great question, and the good news is that Belwin has done a fantastic job of making the prairie accessible to people of all ages and abilities.
Oh, that's really wonderful to hear. What are some of the options for exploring the prairie?
Well, they have a network of well-maintained hiking trails.
Okay.
Ranging from short and easy strolls to longer, more challenging hikes. They even have paved trails that are wheelchair accessible, leading to scenic overlooks with panoramic views.
So there's truly something for everyone. Yeah. What advice would you give someone planning their first visit to Stagecoach Prairie?
First, check Belwin's website for up-to-date information on trail conditions, hours of operation, any events that might be happening. Be sure to wear comfortable shoes and pack water and snacks, as there are no concessions on site.
Okay, those are good tips.
Yeah.
Anything else people should keep in mind?
If you're visiting during the summer, sunscreen and a hat are essential.
Right.
And since this is a natural area, it's crucial to be respectful of the environment.
Of course.
Stay on marked trails to avoid disturbing sensitive habitat.
Yeah.
And of course, leave no trace.
Right.
Back out everything you pack in.
Leave no trace. Got it. It sounds like common sense, but it's always good to be reminded.
Absolutely. And most importantly, bring your curiosity.
Okay.
Stagecoach Prairie is a place of wonder and discovery.
Yeah.
Take your time to observe the details, listen to the sounds, breathe in the fresh air, and just enjoy the experience. You never know what treasures you might find.
Right. I'm convinced I'm adding Stagecoach Prairie to my bucket list.
Great.
But before I book my trip, I'm curious about something else.
Yeah.
What does the future hold for Belwin? We've talked about its past and present,
Right.
but what are the challenges and opportunities ahead?
That's a great question, and it brings us to a crucial point in our deep dive.
Okay.
The future of Belwin, like that of many conservation areas, is intertwined with the larger challenges facing our planet, such as climate change and habitat loss.
Okay, so it's not all sunshine and wildflowers.
Yeah.
What are some of the specific issues Belwin is facing?
Well, climate change is a big one.
Yeah.
Rising temperatures, shifting weather patterns, more extreme events. It's all impacting ecosystems around the world.
Right.
And prairies are no exception.
So the delicate balance we've been talking about is facing even bigger threats. What can be done to address that?
Well, Belwin's conservation team is actively working on this.
Okay.
They're studying how climate change is impacting the prairie and using that knowledge to adapt their management strategies.
So it's about more than just protecting land. It's about inspiring people to take action.
Exactly, and that's where the real hope lies. Individual actions multiplied across a community can have a huge impact.
Yeah.
From choosing native plants for your garden to reducing your carbon footprint, there are so many ways to make a difference.
This is inspiring, but I have to admit it also feels a bit overwhelming.
Sure.
What would you say to someone who's feeling a bit lost, wondering what they can do to help?
I understand that feeling.
Yeah.
But the key takeaway here is that even small actions can make a difference.
Okay.
Start by educating yourself about these issues.
Mm-hmm.
Support organizations like Belwin.
Right.
Talk to your friends and family about it.
Yeah.
And most importantly, remember that nature isn't just something out there. It's all around us.
Right.
Even spending time in a local park can help foster that connection and inspire you to take action.
I love that perspective. It's about bringing conservation into our everyday lives, not just leaving it to the experts.
Exactly. And Belwin Conservancy, with its multifaceted approach to conservation, education, and recreation, offers a powerful model for how we can all connect with and protect the natural world.
This has been an incredible journey, from the history of the Dakota people to the vision of Lucy Winton Bell, from the intricacies of prairie ecology to the simple joy of a nature walk. Belwin Conservancy truly stands out as a special place.
I couldn't agree more. And as we move forward, let's remember the lessons we've learned from this deep dive.
Yeah.
Let's be inspired by the resilience of the prairie, the dedication of conservationists, and the power of individual action.
Well said. And who knows, maybe this deep dive will inspire some of our listeners to explore Belwin Conservancy for themselves, or even just find a little piece of nature closer to home to cherish and protect.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep.
Thanks for joining us. We've covered a lot of ground about the Belwin Conservancy, its history, its ecological importance. It's a pretty amazing place.
It is.
But we were talking about some of the challenges it faces, especially with climate change.
Right.
It all sounds a bit daunting, to be honest.
It's true. Climate change is a major threat, not just to Belwin, but to ecosystems worldwide. Rising temperatures, changes in rainfall patterns, more extreme weather events.
Right.
It's a lot to contend with.
So what does that mean for a place like Stagecoach Prairie? Like, what are the specific impacts that they're seeing?
Well, for one thing, it's affecting the timing of natural events.
Okay.
Plants might bloom earlier or later than usual. Insects might emerge at different times.
Okay.
It kind of throws off that delicate balance of the ecosystem.
So it's not just about the prairie getting hotter or drier. It's like messing with that whole interconnected web of life.
Exactly. And that's why the work that Belwin is doing is so important.
Right.
They're not just sitting back and watching this happen.
Yeah.
They're actively studying these impacts and adapting their management practices to try and mitigate the damage.
What does that look like in practice? Like, how do you adapt to a changing climate?
It involves a lot of careful observation and experimentation.
Okay.
For example, they're tracking how climate change is affecting the timing of plant flowering and insect activity. And this helps them to make decisions about things like when to conduct prescribed burns to ensure that they're still beneficial for the prairie's health.
So it's a lot more complex than just setting a fire and hoping for the best.
Definitely. And it's an ongoing process.
Right.
They're constantly gathering data, analyzing the results, and adjusting their strategies based on what they learn.
Okay.
It's a testament to their commitment to science-based conservation.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
I'm still feeling a bit overwhelmed, though. What can, like, an average person actually do to help?
I understand that feeling.
Yeah.
It's easy to feel powerless in the face of such a massive issue.
Right.
But the truth is, individual actions can make a difference, especially when they're multiplied across a community.
Okay, so what kind of actions are we talking about? Besides donating money, of course, which is always helpful.
Well, a lot of it starts with education.
Okay.
The more you understand about climate change and its impacts, the more empowered you are to make informed choices.
So, like, reading up on the issue, learning about what scientists are saying.
Exactly. And then there are things you can do in your everyday life.
Well,
choosing energy-efficient appliances.
okay.
Reducing your reliance on cars. Supporting sustainable businesses.
Right.
It all adds up.
I've also heard a lot about the importance of native plants. How does that tie in?
Yeah, planting native species in your yard can make a real difference for pollinators, birds, other wildlife.
Oh, wow.
It helps to create habitat corridors and supports biodiversity.
So even something as simple as gardening can be a form of conservation.
Absolutely. And don't underestimate the power of talking to your friends and family about these issues.
Okay.
Spreading awareness is crucial.
I guess it's about making those connections, showing people that it's not just some abstract problem, it affects all of us.
Exactly. And remember, supporting organizations like Belwin is another way to make a difference. They're doing incredible work on the ground, protecting vital habitat and educating the next generation of conservationists.
This deep dive has really opened my eyes to the complexity of conservation. It's not just about preserving pristine wilderness. It's about recognizing that interconnectedness of all living things and finding ways to coexist in a changing world.
I couldn't agree more, and I think Belwin Conservancy, with its blend of science education and community engagement, offers a hopeful model for the future. It shows that we can make a difference even in the face of seemingly insurmountable challenges.
Well, this has been an incredible journey, from the history of the Dakota people to the vision of Lucy Winton Bell, from the intricacies of prairie ecology to the simple joy of a nature walk. Belwin Conservancy truly stands out as a special place.
I couldn't agree more.
And to our listeners, we hope you enjoyed this deep dive into Belwin Conservancy.
Yeah, thanks for joining us.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep.